Hello and welcome to another segment of Interviews That Matter. I am your host Raj Mehta. Friends, in this segment we bring those guests who influence our lives. This includes elected officials, policy makers, heads of major organizations and other dignitaries. It is my sincere hope that the knowledge brought in by this guest will help our community. Today we have such guest. Her name is Lourdes Zapata. Lourdes is the Executive Director for Empire State Development Corporation, which is a New York State agency, and she is the head of Women and Minority Owned Business. Ms. Zapata, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you so much for your time. May I call you Lourdes?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah. So I really appreciate you coming from Mid-Hudson and coming to the city and come here to take your time. So it's really, thank you for coming here.
It's
today,
my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
And we hope that not we hope, but we will rather pick your brain and say and understand exactly what you do, how you do it, and what are the benefits for the viewers. Benefit from.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Yep. So let's first begin with your background. Like right now, I know you're an executive director for ESD, Empire State Development Corporation, but let's go back and let's see how did you get here.
Long story. Well, I started my career working in nonprofits primarily, working in community and economic development projects. Initially working throughout New York City in partnership with local neighborhood organizations and tenant organizations as a community development person. And then ultimately I focused my economic development activities in the South Bronx, which is where I was born and raised.
Okay.
So that was nice to be able to go back home and work on economic development projects and workforce development projects and working with businesses, local businesses, some of the larger businesses on a variety of local neighborhood redevelopment activities. I did a lot of affordable housing development work in the South Bronx, so I got the opportunity on a really well-rounded basis to work within the community that I grew up in, which was very lovely to do and nice to do and exciting to do. Really just see the transformation that was happening in the South Bronx and being able to be a part of it.
Very nice. So like working with the community and especially workforce development, right? I mean, tell us something about your experiences, like give an example of like somebody who you helped really.
Well, it's tough. The South Bronx, we like to say, if you need anything, more than likely you can find it in the South Bronx. And our role, and my role, really focused on working with businesses and helping them build their capacity, helping them identify what their needs are, seeing if there are any public or private incentives, whether they were city, state, federal incentives or private programs that can be brought to help these businesses grow and expand their workforce. So while I was there were things like companies as large as the New York Post that built a printing plant, a color printing plant in the South Bronx. There were companies like MWBE, which is a beer distributor that is located within the South Bronx. There were a number of large businesses that were already operating in the South Bronx, and so my role was for those larger businesses to help them identify government programs that were there, whether it's tax incentives, workforce incentives, financing, programming, helping them, making sure that they were aware of what was available to them and helping facilitate their access to these programs. And so in that sense, if there were workforce needs, if they were expanding and they needed to identify workers and recruit workers, so we worked on developing programs to help them do that, whether it was training programs or on-the-job training incentive programs, helping with the recruitment activities. So it was I worked for a nonprofit economic development organization in the South Bronx, and that was our mission, to work with these businesses. On the smaller scale, we had the smaller retailers, and so their needs were very different, obviously, mostly focused on city needs, and they may have issues related to licensing questions. They may need loans and financing access, technical assistance, developing business plans. So what was exciting about my work is that really on a day-to-day basis it changed. I could be working with a company as large as Parallel Products or Manhattan Beer one day, or working with a smaller neighborhood-based business that needed some assistance in they have tax issues, or they need work, they need some help with the Department of Small Business Services and helping them access those programs. So it really ran the gamut as it related to business. On the housing end, I had the opportunity to learn about development of affordable and special needs housing. So while I worked within the South Bronx, I was project manager, and I built over 600 units of affordable housing and special needs housing. And so the really great part about that is that I get to drive through these neighborhoods and see the product of the work that
you did,
that I invested.
You helped,
I helped find the site. I
Right,
helped
right.
get the financing for these projects.
Wow.
I was there when it was being built, and I went during the construction of the building. When it was completed, we filled it with tenants, and we were able to see it. We did ribbon cuttings, and so that was really fun and exciting. So that's the foundation of my professional career, and I think fundamentally it's based on two things. One is my love of community. I love the South Bronx. I love New York City. I love vibrant communities. I love working within communities that are working class, that really represent the best of New York and what communities have to offer.
Right.
On the business side, my mother was a business owner in the 1970s in the South Bronx, and so I really had a front seat view of what it takes to run a business, a small business, and particularly as a Latina, how to run a business, and you're a woman of color, and all of the unique challenges that women and people of color face when you're trying to run a business in New York. And so that really helped form a very solid foundation for the work that I'm doing now.
I mean, that's very interesting, like I understand the feeling when you walk through, drive through that neighborhood where you help them come up.
Yes.
So I can understand the feeling.
Yeah, it's where my heart is. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, very good. So you have to work with both places, like, on the business side as well as on the community side, right? I mean, you are also find people jobs or things like that where a match. Is that?
Well, in my previous job, yes.
Right.
Again, the economic development organization that I worked for was a nonprofit organization, and we did both workforce development and business development. My work was focused on the business development side.
Okay, got it.
However, it does go hand in hand. When
Right.
you're working with a business
Right.
and you have a business that is expanding and they have workforce needs, then I would pull in my colleagues on the workforce side and make sure that partnership was there, and we mutually supported our respective activities in order to help the business and identify programs. So we did things like find federally funded programs that would work with for-profit businesses to help them expand in order to create more businesses. And then on the workforce side, we would create training programs and help them with the recruitment so that we can find local residents to fill those jobs.
Yep, I'm a part of on the board of workforce development here for the town of Oyster Bay, town of North Hempstead, and Glencoe.
Okay.
So we do similar.
So it's
activity,
similar work.
Similar activity,
I spent a few years working for the city of Newburgh in Orange County, New York.
Okay,
I worked for the municipality.
Okay.
And I had to work really closely with the county agencies on a smaller scale on the workforce development side. So I think what that really did was give me a great opportunity to learn about, I spent a lot of time in New York City, which is its own structure and has its own dynamics and unique way of working.
Right.
But I also worked in a smaller municipality outside of New York City and understanding smaller counties and smaller cities and the challenges that they face, which are very different from what you have in New York City, both on your challenges and on your resources. So you have to be creative in a bunch of different ways.
So when did you get to Empire State Development Corporation?
Well, I came to Empire State Development about a year and a half.
Okay.
I'm now working as the executive director for the Division of Minority and Women's Business Development.
Okay. And you were appointed by the governor, or how does it happen?
I was appointed, yes. It was an appointment under Governor Cuomo, so it's a division that works under Empire State Development.
How did they find you?
Well, I think I found them. I had
them.
seen the job posting, and a friend of mine that worked for the New York City Board of Education had found the posting, and so she sent it to me and said, I think this is a really good fit for you. And I looked at it and I got really excited about it. I met with the woman who was then serving as the Chief Diversity Officer, who was also a friend. And I spoke to her and I said, "What do you think I'd be good for this job?" And she said, "Absolutely. I'd love to to see if we can't get you on board. And I was really fortunate that it just worked out. I was really excited about it.
Wow, nice, congratulations.
Thank
Very
you,
nice.
thank you.
Yeah.
It was really exciting. I enjoy it.
And good. Well, you already have experience with the developing businesses, right? So this is similar, really, on a women and minority side.
Yeah, again, it really helped. I thought it was a job that really met all of my interests. Working with businesses, working with communities of color, people of color, women's issues, which are incredibly important to me as well. And so this was a nice mix, a nice stew of all of the interests that I have.
Good, very good. So tell us about Empire State Development Corporation, what it is and what are the functions of the ESD.
Well, Empire State Development is one of the governor's 96 state agents. There's 96 state agencies and authorities in New York State. Empire State is one of them. And it is Empire State Development that is the economic development agency that works for Governor Cuomo. So the vast majority, if not all, of the larger economic development projects that happen in New York State will typically flow through Empire State Development. So it is Empire State Development that is working on such projects as the redevelopment of the Javits Center, redevelopment of the Empire Station Post Office, a lot of the larger scale projects. The governor initiated regional development councils throughout New York State, so there are 10 regions in New York State, and then we have 10 regional offices in New York State, and they all operate under Empire State Development, and it's through those regional offices that the state funnels its economic development funding for smaller or local community and economic development projects. So all of those operations happen under Empire State Development. So it's really focused on economic development activities.
So basically, yeah, okay. And your idea is women and minority-owned business.
My corner of Empire State is working with women and minority-owned businesses, and working with businesses to help them get certified as New York State MWBE firms, helping them access state contracting opportunities, working in support of the governor's goals to increase utilization of MWBE firms in state contracting. I work with all of the 96 state agencies and authorities, including Empire State Development, to make sure that they are maximizing opportunities for MWBEs. And so we develop programs and policies and regulations and initiatives, all with an eye towards increasing opportunities for MWBEs.
Great. Let's talk about certification first. Okay, so who is qualified? Who can be qualified, and how they do go about certification?
Right. So in order to get certified under New York State, you have to meet certain criteria. First and foremost, the majority ownership of a company must stand with either a woman or a member of the minority community, African American, Latino, Native American. So there are specific ethnic groups that qualify, as well as women. The majority ownership of a firm must be with a member of that group, one of those two groups, and or in my case, I'm a member of both groups. So and by majority, we typically mean 51% or more of the company must be owned by a person that's a member of that group. So that's the first and foremost criteria. We look to the operations of the company. We look at the independence of a company to make sure that the company is really truly owned and managed and operated by a minority or a woman. And so we will look at things as who has decision-making authority within a business, who signs checks, who negotiates contracts, who is the person responsible for the day-to-day management of the company. So for us, it's not just about majority ownership. We really want to see that someone not only owns a company, but really rolls up their sleeves and gets involved and engaged in the operations of the company, and that it's an independent company. It's not a subsidiary of a larger company where most of the decision-making power lies. So that is our primary focus when we're looking at what firms can qualify to be certified. We also have requirements that they not have more than 300 employees. So you cannot have more than 300 employees, and you cannot have a personal net worth that exceeds $3.5 million. So if you're fortunate enough to have a personal net worth that exceeds $3.5 million and you own a company, unfortunately, we cannot certify you as a firm. But if you are below that threshold and you meet all of the other requirements set under our statute, we are able to certify you as an MWBE firm in New York State.
Okay, so once, let's say if someone is satisfying all these criteria, then how do they go about it? It's like an online application
It is
that
an
they
online
fill out?
application. You go on the New York State contracting system. It's all an online process. It's a web-based portal that's open 24 hours a day. So you can go on, you can log on, you can create a vendor profile, you can submit your application, you can submit all of the required supporting documentation that we need to see in order to assess whether you are a qualified firm as an MWBE firm. So all of that application process is done through the New York State contracting system. There are links through the ESD website, which is esd.ny.gov, where folks can get on the website and through there find the link to the New York State contracting system.
Okay, so once they fill out the application and once they give a supporting document, then how long it takes to get certified?
Yeah, that's a common question I get, and it's probably one of the hardest questions to answer. It takes a while for us to process these applications. What I say to folks is, understanding that it is a process. We not only require the document, but we require supporting documents. So we need to see tax returns. We need to see your corporate documents, your bylaws. If you own a building, we need a copy of your lease. If you own vehicles, we need copies of that documentation. Very often what we find is that we will have applicants that will submit an application, but they will not submit all of the supporting documentation. There'll be some pieces of documents that are still missing. So we're not able to properly assess whether a firm qualifies as an MWBE firm until we have all of the supporting documentation as well as the application. And that tends to be more often than not where the delays happen, because we will reach out to an applicant and say, you're required to submit 10 pieces of documentation. We only have 7, and you're missing these 3.
Right.
And the applicant may turn it around in a day, and they may take 30 days to respond. They may take 60 days to respond. And all of that adds to the review time. And it's not until we're able to get that application back, and then sometimes, even then, we still don't get everything that we're asking for. So that tends to be a lot of the back and forth that happens. That's why it's a difficult question to answer, because some of those steps are beyond our control.
Right.
As far as how long it will take for us to get applications. We have, over the past year and a half during my tenure there, spent a lot of time looking at the application itself and trying to streamline it and see if there's a way for us to minimize the documents that we're requesting. So those are all things that we are looking at.
Right.
We're looking at turning around the applications once they are completed. And again, the key is once it's complete, right? So if we need 10 documents, once we have all 10 documents and the application and all the paperwork is in order, we generally seek to have those applications complete our processing within 90 days.
Okay.
But again, the long period of time from the time someone starts until someone finally achieves their certification is really a moving target. It just depends on how quickly we're able to turn those documents.
Let me talk about the net worth that you mentioned, 3.5 million. What it covers and what one should be looking for.
Well, there is a worksheet that is part of our application.
Okay.
So we ask you to list your personal net worth. You can deduct such things as your home. The worth, the market value of your home can be deducted under your personal net worth. So there are all these various calculations that you can take, and it doesn't require an accountant, so I don't want folks to worry about that. It is a one-page worksheet where we tell you, list your income, list your worth, list your savings, any taxes that you may have or owe, or pension benefits, things of that nature. What's the value of your home? What's the value of your stocks? And so, it's the adding and subtracting until you get to the bottom line. And it's that bottom line number that we're looking for. And if it exceeds $3.5 million, it is a statutory requirement. So there is no discretion in us being able to waive that. But as long as you fall under that number, you're fine. You can get certified.
Is there a, this is like 3.5 million right now, right? I mean, obviously, the legislator is reviewing to increase it, or they're going to keep the same right now?
Well, it's
there
3.5 in today's dollars is about 3.7. So we give it about 3.7. It is statutorily set the 3.5.
Right.
One of the things that the state has been engaging in is a year-long study of whether any disparity exists within New York State in the utilization of MWBEs. And it is a study that we are required by statute to undertake, which analyzes the availability of MWBEs in New York State and then compares it to the availability of contracts and then looks at where they're being utilized. And that study then serves as a legal foundation for us to develop our MWBE programs. Personal net worth is one of those things that we're looking at under the disparity study. Does it make sense? Does the number need to be higher or lower? Do we need to get rid of it altogether? I think we will have an answer to that by the time the study gets published, which we're looking to have by the end of the calendar year.
How about out-of-state companies? Can they get certified as a MBE, WMBE?
Yes, out-of-state companies, as long as they are authorized to do business in New York State. So if you have an out-of-state business that has offices in New York, that operates in New York State and has authority to do so within New York State, then they are qualified to get certified.
So, many of the states, they don't let out-of-state companies get certified. Would New York consider something like that?
That's a good question. I don't know that it's come up before. I think it's something maybe we could take a look at. I think right now, it's not been something that we've been considering, whether to preclude out-of-state businesses. I think New York State is somewhat unique because we're surrounded by so many others. You could drive 5-10 minutes and be in New Jersey or Connecticut. A little bit further, you're in Pennsylvania. So the tri-state area is a little bit more of a dynamic. Our borders are a lot more fluid. But no, I don't think the state has looked at that at this point. Whether it's something that's to be considered, I think it's really up to the legislator or the governor to give some thought to.
Right. I think, maybe you can do it this way, the reciprocation, right? For example, Texas, they would not let you get certified unless you are a company, you are in Texas company. So you don't give Texas companies here to get certified. That way what happens is fair. Like, we are also minority-owned firm, right?
Understood,
in New York State, and then we go to Texas and they said, no, you can't do it.
Yeah.
You're not Texan, you're not Texas-based company. So they don't let us get certified there, So we lose opportunities there.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it's an interesting point, an interesting question, and probably over my authority to speak to. I think it's but it's a fair point.
Right. Yeah, because I've been told that a few states like that can't do it.
Right.
So anyway, it's something to consider.
Okay.
For your communication with somebody.
Sure.
Sure. It takes time, but whatever. We were talking about the certifications. We are talking about WMBE certifications, certified companies which are, authorized to do business in New York State. Could be an out-of-state company, can be certified under the law of New York State. I wanted to ask you this question: that do you have any? I'm sure you have an idea that how many companies are currently certified as a minority-owned and as a woman-owned companies?
Well, right now we have slightly over 7,400 firms in our directory in total, and that number changes from week to week. We require that firms, once you get certified, you're required to recertify every 3 years. So those firms that do not go through a recertification process get taken off our directory. So the number is constantly changing. We're always looking to add to the directory. We're always looking to find firms that are not certified as MWBEs because the opportunities are there under New York State for engagement in state contracting. So we're always encouraging firms to get certified with New York, and we find that there are industries where we know that there are more MWBE firms than are reflected in our directory, and so we spend a lot of our time marketing and hosting events and trying to get the word out about the importance of getting certified.
So can you give me some of the industries that you don't have that many companies are certified?
Well, what we did was about a year ago we undertook an analysis of where the state is spending its money, and where we saw that there was an underutilization of MWBE firms, either because we didn't have enough that were certified, or they weren't working within industries that we saw that there was a huge need for them. The IT industry is one where we see that there are some significant opportunities. We need to have more firms. That, there are certainly really great IT firms that are certified in New York State. We need more. Food and beverage industry is one where we found really lack of firms that are certified within those. A lot of the specialty firms, specialty type of firms that are not there, whether it's beverage production, beverage distribution, food production. On the professional services side, certainly we have we're always looking for more architects and engineers and attorneys and accountants, financial services professionals. So there is really a broad range of firms that we're always looking to add to our directory. Because New York State is such a large and diverse state. There are also pockets of the state where we need to find more MWBE firms. The northern portion of the state, we see that we don't have nearly enough MWBEs to meet the need in that geographic region. And that is one of two things. Either we find more MWBE firms that are working in those areas and get them certified, or we look to MWBE firms that are able to perform on contracts in those areas. So we may have a firm that's located in the Mid-Hudson region, but can do work in the North Country, or can do work in the southern tier, or the western part of New York, or New York City, or Long Island-based businesses that can do work in other portions of the state. Just making sure that we're making those connections, because the message is there with our state agencies and authorities that they need to do business with MWBE firms. So the contract opportunities are there, and it's making sure that they have a pool of MWBEs that they can tap into in order to serve that need.
What is your goal? Like, you have 7,400 approximately, and what is the goal? Is there a goal set, like, we made 10,000, 15,000?
Yeah, well, the governor, when he did the State of the State address in 2014, he committed to getting an additional 2,000 firms added to our directory, and by the time he did the State of the State address in 2016, I was really pleased that we met that goal. We had met the 2,000, so we added 2,000 in 2 years. Firms, and then in 2016 of the State of the State address, the governor announced that we were going to add another 2,000 firms to the directory. So currently, that's our goal, to have another 2,000 firms added. The challenge has been set by the governor, and we intend to meet it.
Wow. Okay. So close to 10,000.
We'll be close to 10,000 when we get to
the governor's
within the
goal.
2-year period. But again, the number changes because firms get added, firms get removed. And so it is a fluid document. So we consistently look at how many more are we adding to the directory.
Let me come back to these 96 agencies that you mentioned, and dollar spends. You have any kind of, like, I know the governor is very firm on utilization of WMBs, and he has set a goal for 30% of the all state dollars. Is that something? Right?
In October of 2014, the governor announced that the goal for utilization of MWBE firms on state contracting opportunities would be 30%. So what does that mean? That means that his goal is that all of the state dollars that are spent throughout the 96 state agencies and authorities, so that the state funds these agencies to do their work, 30% of their dollars should be going to MWBE firms. Now, the legal basis for that is Article 15A of the executive law that gives the state the authority to implement that program and those goals. It is an aspirational goal, so it's not a quota, it's not a requirement that 30% of the dollars go there. It is a goal. And the goal applies to all contracts that are issued by New York State over $25,000 for commodities and over $100,000 in construction. So if an agency is letting a contract that meets these threshold requirements, they are then required to assess that contract for goals. And what does that mean? So that means that If there is a contract that is being let by a state agency or authority, they are then required to look at the availability of MWBE firms to perform on that contract. And availability by region, so how many MWBEs do we have that are working in this particular region, and availability in the directory, so how many firms are certified, because there are only firms that are certified count, which is why it's really important for firms to get certified. So they look at how many firms are certified, how many firms are available to work in this contract, how many are working in this industry, and based on that analysis, they will set the goal on a particular contract. So there are some contracts that may be lower than 30% because the determination's been made that there is just no availability. Or there are some contracts that might be higher than 30% because there is an abundance of MWBEs that are available to perform on these contracts. So I've seen contracts as high as 50, 60% goals on it. I've seen some contracts with 0% goals because that analysis has been made. But ultimately the goal is, at some point, the average will come out to as close 30% or more of all of our state contracting. When the governor first took office in 2011, the state was issuing contracts, was utilizing MWBE firms at less than 10% of our state contracting. We were slightly over 9%, somewhere between 9 and 10% of state dollars were going to MWBE firms, and that was clearly an issue. The governor promptly set a goal of 20%. Which we met the following year and met or exceeded every single year since he has been in office. As I mentioned earlier, in 2014, he then raised the bar and has us looking at 30% as a goal, and so we are now working towards that 30% goal. But the important thing that when I talk to folks, and I like to point out, is over this past calendar year, that resulted in $1.6 billion worth of funding and dollars that went directly to the MWBE business community. So that's $1.6 billion of the state money that goes to MWBEs. And every year, we're constantly making sure that we are working with our agencies and authorities to maximize these opportunities. So if you have contracts, the messaging to all of our agencies and authorities very clearly has been from the governor and his senior team all the way down into my communications with agencies and the division's communications with agencies. It's how do we get to 30%? You know, we're not there yet. We're working hard towards that goal. There are certainly challenges to getting there, and so we spend a lot of time looking at where are the barriers, where are the issues, where are the challenges, which is where getting firms certified is certainly part of it. You know, we want to make sure that we have a pool of MWBEs to work on this. We look at contracts and making sure that we've done things like breaking up contracts so that if an MWBE firms don't have the capacity to work on multi-billion-dollar contracts, what can we break these up a bit so that they become more manageable for MWBE firms to work at. We have spent a lot of time reviewing our policies, reviewing our regulations, cleaning them up, making them stronger, making them more user-friendly. So it is a constant dialogue with the governor's executive team. I work very, very closely and regularly with the governor's executive team, working with our agencies who we see as our partners in this process and in this effort. And so each one of our agencies we talk to, if not once a month, more often than that, the leadership of these agencies, to make sure that they're on message and they're on point and we're providing them whatever support they need so that we're all collectively working towards that goal.
That's really good. You know, I mean, and accountability is the key, right? You know, I mean, you must be like, you know, as you said that you're talking to agencies every, you know, once a month or more than that.
Absolutely.
And accountability, you know, how, I mean, they must be reporting you, your agency also, right?
Yes.
I mean,
so
you know,
all the agencies, yes, all the agencies are required to report to us on a quarterly basis on their progress. So every quarter we secure their numbers. Where is your budget? Where is your utilization? What is it looking like? What is your percentage? Where are you in your efforts to achieve that goal? So we do a quarterly analysis of their budgets and their utilization. We do a year-end analysis of their goals and utilization. Our year-end analysis is actually very publicly available. You can get it off the ESD website. We typically publish it in the fall. So that report will go on the ESD website, and it'll tell you agency by agency what was their total goal, what has been their utilization for MWBEs, MBEs, and WBEs, and percentage-wise, what does that look like, and what is the statewide goal? So there is not just accountability with our agencies, but transparency on our part to make sure that everyone is understanding of where the state is in meeting these goals and where the individual agencies are in meeting these goals.
I'm going to give you one more suggestion. I don't know
Sure.
whether you may be doing it already. Are you also like tracking waivers?
We are. We do.
You
And
are,
part
right?
Of, part
That's what
of
I thought,
our,
but
yes.
yeah.
The annual report will also have information on waivers. How many are requested? How much are approved?
Exactly. Right, yeah.
To be clear, the waivers are not approved by my office. The waivers are approved by the governor's office.
Oh, governor's office. Okay.
Right. And so folks that, maybe for folks that don't know what waivers are, the contract goals are set on a contract.
Right.
And the prime contractor is required to meet these goals.
Yeah.
If they are unable to meet these goals for whatever reason, they were not able to find MWBEs to perform on the contract, or there are other extenuating circumstances that came into play that really prevented them from meeting these goals, then the prime contractor has to apply for a waiver with their agency,
Right.
the agency that issued the contract.
Right.
The agency then is required to review the waiver request. They are required to collect information that demonstrates the prime's good faith efforts in meeting those goals. So you can't just say I couldn't do it.
Right.
You have to demonstrate to us how did you try to meet these goals. And we look at that information very closely. And sometimes we have even fact checked the information. If you put an ad in the newspaper, we want to see that ad. If you spoke to MWBE firms, we want to know who you talked to and when did you talk to them and what did they say and why weren't they able to perform. Is it that they were too busy, or they didn't have the capacity to take on a project, or they weren't interested? We ask for that level of detail.
Okay.
So once the prime offers us that supporting information, the agency then makes a decision as to whether they would like to approve or deny that waiver. If the agency wants to approve the waiver, they are then required to go directly to the governor's office. And again, that's not our office.
Right.
It goes right to the governor's senior
Right.
staff.
Right.
They will review the waiver request and they will ultimately make the decision as to whether the waiver is approved or denied. Some cases, in many cases, they will contact us back, the division, for our support in helping them analyze what is being presented by the prime, but ultimately the decision on whether to approve or deny a waiver comes from the governor's office. The data on the waivers is part of our annual report. That then gets incorporated within our annual report. So again, the transparency is there and the general public has an opportunity to see how many waivers were issued and what was and what was the result of that process.
Right.
In the case where we reject the waiver,
Right.
there are damages that can be assessed against a contract. So if a prime has failed to meet their requirements, contractual requirements, because the
Right.
goal, again, it becomes part of your contract.
Right.
So if you've not met your goals, then there are punitive waivers and fees and fines that we can assess against the prime. And so there are dollars that get collected as part of that. So if you have a $100,000 contract and you had a 30% goal, so
Right.
you're out of 100,000, 30% is 30,000.
Right.
You fail to meet that goal,
Right.
we may assess $30,000 in fees
Okay.
against you. So now your contract gets reduced by that amount.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I mean, I've seen it, all my life, well, not all my life, I've said, I've seen it that, mostly what happens that, nobody wants like to share, right? It's a human thing that if, like procurement departments, right, for all these agencies, they're used to doing certain ways, and now they say, okay, now I have to do this. So it's very easy for them to ask for the waivers. Because I've seen it all the time, and primes also, they don't want to share really things, right? Even though they can find, I mean, all the documentation that they submit with, I mean, that could be a standard document that they're submitting every time.
Right.
I'm just saying that, because I have noticed it in some of the business that we do, where we do the business, right? I mean, people do file waiver and they get away with it,
Yeah, well, I mean,
because they don't want to share, simple.
Right. No, I think you know, people, we're humans, we're all humans.
Yeah, we are all humans, right.
And we work with whom we're comfortable with working with.
Right, right.
And we do business the way we are comfortable doing business.
Exactly,
And it is
exactly,
difficult to get folks to make that shift in business. It is difficult. But what I will say is that from the governor's perspective, from the ESD's perspective, from the division's perspective, our role is clear and our mandate is clear.
Right.
And if that takes a dynamic shift in how businesses do business, if they want to do business with New York State, that is part of our requirements, and we don't waver from that.
Good.
One iota. And I have to say that the reason, part of the reason why we have been so successful in increasing MWBE utilization, because remember, we were at slightly less than 10% only 5 years ago, and now we've surpassed 20, 22, 25% utilization over the past 5 years. So we've made some really dramatic increases in the dollars that are going to our MWBE community. And the reason we've been so successful is because it is coming from the governor.
Right.
You know, the commitment that Governor Cuomo has to the MWBE community, from my experience, having been in the executive chamber and having heard the conversations coming from his senior team, is immovable. You know, it's there, it's committed. You know, every week I meet with the governor's senior staff. And every week there are discussions about what is going on in New York State as far as contracting. The LaGuardia redevelopment project that is happening right now, you know, the LaGuardia Airport will be redeveloped. There is a 30% goal on that project. I talk weekly with the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, with the team that has been selected by the state to develop that project, and to emphasize and re-emphasize and keep talking about making sure that they're engaging the MWBE community. And so, you know, it's a work in progress, right? So, we're constantly working on that. But I guess what I wanted to say was, you know, you can ask for the waiver, doesn't mean you're going to get it. And I've seen many waivers that get denied, and we are now going through appeals process where primes are saying, you know, we want to appeal the waiver. Well, you know, it is what it is, because our goal is clear and our mandate is clear, and we are very clear about what we're requiring from day one. And so you have to meet the goal, demonstrate that you've tried to meet the goal, give us your good faith efforts. Again, it is business. We're not looking for people to lose business. We're not looking for people to lose money on deals. But the fact of the matter is, when you look at New York State and you look at the MWBE community, MWBEs have not had access to state contracting.
Absolutely.
They've not had that support
I agree.
within the business community. And that's why we do what we do, to make sure that we're leveling the playing field.
You know what, I tell you, I definitely have to congratulate Governor and his team and you guys, you know, for doing a wonderful job. I mean, I am a testimony here that I tell you, I've been doing this for 30 years, as I said before, and we've been certified as a minority-owned firm for almost 25 years, right? The activity in the last year or two that we have seen within our community to be a partner with the larger prime contract and all that, it has gone up so much.
Terrific.
And that is because of the governor's policy and because of accountability and because of all the effort that you're doing, you know, your team is doing.
Great.
Right? So I definitely have to thank you and governor's people, definitely. You know, I mean, I'm willing to go anywhere. I'm willing to talk about that because I know that it has happened to me too.
Well, thank you for that. And those are the stories that we want to make sure that people hear, because it's there. You know, it's business. I get a lot of. I travel throughout New York State in my job. It's one of the most exciting things I do. I get to go throughout New York State and talk to MWBEs at every corner of New York State. And what I say to all of them, look, the foundation is there for your success.
Exactly.
The program is there. The commitment is there. The team is there. I'm here. You know, I will travel wherever you need me to travel to talk about whatever it is that we need to talk about to make sure that we're providing opportunities. But ultimately, all we can do is get you through that door. Can't get you up the stairs. We can't get you the contract. But we can make sure that that door is open to you. And that's what we can do. That's what we have done, and that's where our commitment is. We have had firms, MWBE firms that have come to us because they feel they have been treated unfairly by prime contractors or by agencies.
Right.
We will intervene if it's appropriate. We have had conversations with our agencies and saying, you have an issue with one of your MWBE firms. You need to make sure that you're providing them support. We've called our primes, some of our primes to the table and said, you're not operating in good faith with this MWBE. So it is a very proactive effort. We're not just waiting to see what happens. We're making sure that the programs and the policies that we are putting in place are there, they're public, they're reinforced, that people know what they are, they understand, and that they see that our intent is there to make sure that we're providing the opportunities. And there's no mistaking that message across the board. And I think that we're seeing a change. Again, it's changes. Sometimes it's slow coming.
Yes.
But I do think that we've made some significant progress over the past
I mean,
few years.
I'm a testimony here.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
can verify that. I can be a spokesperson because I have seen it.
Sure,
I've seen it in
sure.
My business. My own business.
Yeah, and I love talking to companies like yours and you and owners like you.
Yeah.
And I've heard this story repeated throughout
Right.
New York State,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
I've
yeah.
met MWBE firms that have said they've been able to just do so much more business
Right.
because it's there. Because again, the key is getting certified.
He is
That's
getting
where it
certified,
starts.
and also then after the certification, don't sit in your home and wait for things to
Exactly.
come. You have to really go out and show yourself, talk to people, network, and that's how you're going to get a business.
And we do, again, we really do try to provide various avenues for people to
Right,
learn
right,
about
right.
how to get engaged in state contracting.
right.
We have the New York State Contract Reporter.
Right.
So every agency that has a contract or a procurement opportunity over $50,000 is required to put that
Post it,
contract
right,
posted
right,
on the New York
right,
State Contract
right,
Reporter.
right.
So I'd say to your audience members, MWBE firms, go to the New York State Contract Reporter, create a vendor profile. You can sort through, I think the last time I checked, there were more than almost 800 contract opportunities. And again, this is all New York State
Right,
contract
right,
opportunities.
right.
So you have to sort through and make sure that you find the ones that are most relevant to you and to your business, to your region, and where you're operating. But there are ways in order for you to be able to sort through that information.
Right.
You can sign up so that you get automatic notices
Right.
when procurements that meet your requirements come out
Right.
from our state agencies. We have a team, a business development team within my own division that sends out email blasts to all of our certified firms.
Right.
This is an opportunity with this agency. This is a procurement opportunity that's coming up. These are some events that are happening that you need to know about so that you can find out about where the state contracting opportunities are. So again, I think to your message about being, as a business owner, being aggressive and making sure that you're learning about where the opportunities are, I think again, we do a lot of work in trying to help in that effort as well.
Yeah. I totally agree, and your webinars are very, very informative and very good. I've been attending few webinars. They are also very good every Tuesday.
Yes, we
Right?
have
So
Training
that's
Tuesday
the Training
webinars.
Tuesday webinars, these are very good. They are very good tool.
And those webinars will run from specific subjects on
Right, right.
commercially useful function, which is an issue that
Right.
we get a lot of questions about with businesses, whether you're a supplier or a broker and what those policies are like
right.
and what that utilization is, to webinars where we host other agencies, how to do business with the Office of
Exactly,
General
right,
Services,
yes.
how to do business with DASNY, how to
Right.
do business with the MTA.
Right.
And these are webinars where businesses can participate from their desktop on. You need not leave your business. You can, they typically last an hour to an hour and a half. We
Yep.
share information. We host representatives from our partner agencies and authorities to talk about how to engage in state contracting.
And if you don't have time at that time, you can still get the videotape of that particular webinar, so you can watch it whenever you want.
Yes, thank you. We've also started recording our webinars so
exactly,
that again, if
exactly,
you're
yep.
not able to make it in the time that it is
Right.
being held, you can come back
You
to
can
it at
come
your
back to
leisure.
it.
Sure.
Right. So that is really helpful also.
Yeah, and so again, it's long in the list of activities and efforts that we undertake every year to really try and bring the information to our MWBE community. We host events throughout New York State.
Right,
We
right.
have We've done 4 events so far. We're MWBE Expos. Our next event is right here in Long Island. It will be at SUNY Stony Brook on June 28th.
June 28th, okay.
It will be the MWBE Expo at SUNY Stony Brook. And at that event, we will have panel presentations about regional opportunities, what the state is funding on a regional basis for on contracts and projects where there are going to be MWBE opportunities. We are going to host a panel that will be specific to the LaGuardia redevelopment project.
Okay.
So if you have businesses that are interested in learning about that project, what it means, what the phasing is going to look like, what the budget is going to look like, where the contracting opportunities lie, we will have a panel that will speak to that. We will also talk about some other projects, but we will also have panels that for firms that are looking to get certified, how to get certified, and how to go through that process. We will be hosting a panel that speaks to how to engage in New York State contracting, how to get started, where a lot of the things that we've been talking about with the contracting system, with a contract reporter, we will do a 1-hour session about how to access those programs and how to get started. We will have a session that will talk about financing products that are available exclusively through New York State for MWBE firms. So if you are an MWBE firm that needs access to capital, New York State has a program called Bridge to Success where we provide short-term loans to businesses up to $2,000. So if you need $200,000, excuse me. So if you need working capital and you need a loan, a small loan, we can provide you those loans. So all of this information will be shared, as well as having representatives from many of our state agencies and authorities, a lot of the decision makers, a lot of the MWBE folks, representatives from each of these agencies will also be there. So it will be on June 28th, and I will be there, and I hope to see you there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, you better get used to this.
Okay.
I go everywhere.
Sure.
That's the name of the game.
That's
you
how
got to
you
go
do
everywhere.
business.
You got to show your face, few times. Then people remember, and then you got to keep networking, keep going, keep talking.
It's about relationships.
Yeah, it's all about relationship, and that's how it works. Who you know, right?
Right.
But the facilitation that you guys give, that is really great. Before it was not there, honestly. I don't want to criticize anybody, but I've seen during all this time that right now the activity is really a lot, and we are really happy about that.
Yeah. Well, we've spent a lot of time. I mean, we have a really great team within the division, and a really committed group of folks from our certification team to our agency services team. Those are the liaisons that work directly with the agencies and authorities. We have a compliance team that makes sure that the numbers that are being reported are accurate, and they're the ones that collect all the data on a quarterly and annual basis. And our business development team, and that's the group that puts our events together and do the outreach, and we do trainings. And so I think over the past, certainly under my tenure, and really, I don't want to take all the credit for it, but we've spent a lot of time making sure that folks understand it, because I understand, again, as someone who had a front seat of someone running a business, how this could be intimidating for small businesses. And so what I'd like to try and do is educate people, kind of lift that veil, remove some of that what could be seen as something intimidated or complicated or difficult to do. It's really not. You don't have to pay someone to get your certification application done. It takes time, like all things.
It's an investment.
Take time.
I would
It
say
is
it's
an
investment.
Absolutely.
I would not call it as a work.
It is most definitely investment.
Yeah, it's an investment.
It's documentation that we require, but we don't require documents that as a business owner you shouldn't already have.
Exactly.
We're not asking you to create anything for us. We need you to share it with us so that we can verify it, but we're not asking you to create anything from scratch. I think, again, we spent a lot of time and effort with the folks on my staff and my team constantly talking about how do we make this program user-friendly, how do we improve our customer service, how do we make sure that we're answering questions, where are people confused, where are they anxious to get more information, and so how do we address that? Where should we be? Should we be going to Watertown, New York again? Should we go to Buffalo? Should we go to Long Island? Should we go to Binghamton? And we spent a lot of time traveling throughout New York State because we served the state of New York, and the commitment is there for the state of New York. So we spent a lot of time, but I think, again, and again back to my earlier point, we couldn't do this if the commitment wasn't there from the governor
Yes.
on down.
Yes. I totally agree.
Couldn't happen.
It cannot happen.
The support is there
Yep.
from the governor.
Yep.
The support is there from the governor's senior team.
Right.
And the ideas are there, the direction is there. We meet weekly, we talk about where our challenges are, and if we're having an issue, the governor's office will say, let's fix it, because we have to figure out how to make this work.
It's leadership, leadership is
Absolutely.
everything actually. Leadership,
Absolutely.
That's very important anywhere, right? Whether it's a company or a state,
Yes, absolutely.
leadership defines the goals and make sure they're done.
Right.
And it gives
And
all the tools actually
Yeah.
to get there.
Don't just say it's a goal.
Right, yeah, exactly, yep.
Create the foundation to meet that goal.
Yep. Agree. Yeah. Do you want to give any last message to the viewers of the show?
Well, I think for your viewership that have not had the chance to come to any of our expos that we've held, I really do encourage people to come. I think they're really fantastic events. We've in the 4 that we've hosted, we've had over 500 attendees at 4 different events.
Right.
We've had over 50 agencies come to participate. So if you're curious about how to do business with DASNY, for example, we will have representatives from DASNY there. So you get to meet people.
Okay.
You have a face-to-face connection, a face-to-face conversation with the agencies, and learn about what they need, and learn about how your business may be able to work with them and provide them some opportunities. So again, I just want to make sure that folks understand June 28th we'll be having at SUNY Stony Brook, we'll be having our expo. We will be having a statewide event in October. That will be in Albany. And that will be a much larger event. Again, all of our agencies will be there, and all of our businesses will there. We'll have much more in-depth panel presentations. A lot of information will be coming out. And lastly, just make sure that you reach out to us at the division. We want to hear about where the challenges are, and we stand ready, willing, and able to help the community. The commitment is there from the governor, it's there from the senior team, it's my commitment, it's the staff's commitment, the team commitment to work there and figure out what we need to do to make it easier for MWBEs to participate, to compete, and to flourish in this economy. The MWBE business community is a critical component in the fabric of New York State business community, and we need to make sure that they're supported. So it's there, and share the information. Go to the ESD website. All of the things I'm talking about, you can find out more from when you go to the ESD website. We have a fraud line, so if there are questions of fraud or issues or concerns, call us. We need to hear about that. If you're an MWBE firm that is working with an agency that has some issues or concerns, please call us. We have a helpline at ESD. It's 212-803-2414.
Okay.
So businesses can call us at that number. They can email us. It's mwbebusiness@esd.ny.gov. So we have multiple ways for you to get in touch with us, and so we want to hear from the MWBE community on what we can be doing to help.
It really makes me feel good. I'm telling you, made me really feel good, because all this, whatever I'm hearing, it's really music to my ears.
Good.
And I really appreciate all your work, all your hard work, and wish you all the best for everything.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about it. I hope you can see I have a real passion for this work. So
well, I can
this is a
see
great
it.
opportunity.
I can see it. I'm honestly, I can see that.
Thank you.
The passion in you're talking from heart. You're not like talking from just mind.
Thank you. Appreciate
so
that.
that is really good. I really appreciate it. Yep. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, comments, you can email me at rajmitv@gmail.com. That's again rajmitv@gmail.com. You can watch our prior shows on YouTube at youtube.com/Infosys International. Again, that's youtube.com/Infosys International. Until next time, have a great week.
Thank you.